On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Robert F. Kennedy, younger brother of President John F. Kennedy and a U.S. Senator from New York, was assassinated on June 5, 1968, at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He had just delivered a victory speech after winning the California Democratic primary for the 1968 presidential election. As he exited through a kitchen pantry, he was shot multiple times by Sirhan Sirhan, a 24-year-old Palestinian immigrant. Kennedy died the following day from his wounds at the age of 42. Kennedy's violent death echoed the turbulence and volatility of the 1960s, a decade marked by civil rights struggles, anti-war protests, and political assassinations. His murder occurred just 5 years after his brother's assassination and only 2 months after the killing of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. The shock was profound. RFK had emerged as a unifying figure in a deeply divided America, advocating for racial equality, economic justice, and an end to the Vietnam War. His campaign inspired hope, particularly among marginalized communities, and his death extinguished a rising tide of optimism for peaceful reform. The immediate consequences of Kennedy's assassination were both emotional and political. His death deepened public disillusionment with the American political system and accelerated the sense of national mourning and fragmentation. The Democratic Party, reeling from the loss of a charismatic leader, was forced to reorganize, ultimately nominating Hubert Humphrey, a less progressive figure whose campaign failed to galvanize Kennedy's diverse base of support. Richard Nixon's subsequent election marked a conservative shift in American politics, suggesting that Kennedy's death altered the course of U.S. history. Robert F. Kennedy's legacy was amplified by the tragedy of his premature death. He came to symbolize a lost potential, a leader who might have guided America through its most painful reckonings with grace and justice. His eloquence, moral conviction, and willingness to confront inequality are remembered through memorials, schools, and public programs bearing his name. His grave at Arlington National Cemetery rests beside his brother's, marked with simple dignity. Ultimately, Kennedy's death reminds us how mortality intersects with memory and myth. He is immortalized not only because of how he died, but because of what he represented: a vision of leadership grounded in empathy, courage, and compassion. Through film, biographies, and annual remembrances, Robert F. Kennedy continues to inspire those seeking a more just and humane society. Anne Bancroft, an acclaimed American actress best known for her powerful roles on stage and screen, passed away on June 6, 2005 in New York City from uterine cancer. Her death was natural, but it marked the quiet end of a vibrant artistic force whose career spanned 5 decades. Though she had remained largely out of the public spotlight in her later years, her passing reignited widespread appreciation for the depth and complexity she brought to her roles. Bancroft rose to prominence in an era when Hollywood was beginning to embrace more psychologically complex female characters. Her portrayal of Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, 1967, became iconic, not just for its cultural shock value, but for its layered depiction of a woman caught between societal expectations and personal disillusionment. Her death reflected the passing of a generation of actresses who challenged conventional depictions of women in film, bringing intelligence, intensity, and autonomy to their performances during a time of sweeping change in American gender norms and cinematic storytelling. The immediate consequences of her death were a resurgence of tributes and retrospectives that highlighted her contributions to theater and film. Bancroft was not merely a symbol of Hollywood glamour. She was a respected and serious actress, winning an Academy Award, 2 Tony Awards, and 2 Emmy Awards. Her legacy was further shaped by her long and celebrated marriage to comedian Mel Brooks, which represented a rare, enduring Hollywood partnership marked by mutual admiration and artistic support. Though her passing did not shift the trajectory of global events, it reminded the world of the subtle power of performance to influence culture and emotion. Bancroft's characters often wrestled with identity, regret, and power, universal human experiences that transcend time. Her death added a final chapter to a body of work that continues to inspire actors and filmmakers seeking authenticity and emotional truth in storytelling. In reflecting on Anne Bancroft's legacy, we see how mortality accentuates the enduring power of memory and art. We commemorate such figures through the continued viewing of their work, scholarly analysis, and cultural references. Bancroft is immortalized not with monuments, but through the characters she portrayed, women of strength, vulnerability, and complexity, echoing our collective desire to find meaning in the human experience through performance. Dr. John, born Malcolm John Rebennack Jr., passed away on June 6, 2019, of a heart attack at the age of 77. His death, though natural, marked the end of a musical era that had bridged New Orleans' mystical roots with the rhythms of rock, blues, and funk. Known for his gravelly voice, flamboyant stage presence, and deep connection to the cultural soul of Louisiana, Dr. John's passing was a poignant moment in American music history. Dr. John rose to fame during the countercultural explosion of the late 1960s and early 1970s, embodying a spirit of rebellion, spiritualism, and regional pride. His music, heavily infused with voodoo mysticism, Creole rhythms, and jazz influences, reflected the complexities of the American South during a time of cultural upheaval and social change. His death occurred in a world that had become more corporatized and homogenized in its music, making his uniquely authentic and place-rooted artistry feel like a fading echo of a richer, more eclectic time. The immediate response to his passing included heartfelt tributes from musicians, fans, and institutions worldwide. The city of New Orleans, where his influence loomed large, mourned the loss of one of its most iconic sons. His funeral procession through the streets, complete with brass bands and second-line dancers, was both a celebration and a testament to his enduring legacy. His death amplified the mystique that had always surrounded him, casting him not just as a performer, but as a guardian of a cultural heritage. Dr. John's passing reminds us how certain figures are immortalized not solely by their fame, but by their embodiment of a people, a place, and a spirit. His music chronicled a uniquely American experience, one shaped by slavery, migration, resistance, and celebration, and his persona was a living bridge between folklore and performance. As with many cultural icons, his memory endures through his recordings, tributes, and the ongoing influence he has on new generations of musicians. Ultimately, Dr. John's death reveals humanity's yearning to connect with identity, roots, and the power of storytelling through art. We remember him not just for what he sang, but for what he represented. A timeless voice from the swamps of New Orleans whispering stories of magic, survival, and soul. Kimbo Slice, born Kevin Ferguson, died unexpectedly on June 6, 2016, from heart failure at the age of 42. His death, though natural, was sudden and jarring, reflective of the complex intersection of fame, physical strain, and the modern spectacle of combat sports. A former backyard brawler turned mixed martial artist and professional boxer, Slice's rise to fame mirrored the digital revolution, catapulted not by traditional media, but by viral videos that made him an internet sensation in the early 2000s. Slice's death occurred just days before a scheduled fight, underscoring the physical toll of combat sports and raising questions about the health and safety of fighters in high-risk environments. The autopsy revealed signs of congestive heart failure, compounded by a liver mass. His passing reflected broader concerns of the era: overtraining, inadequate medical oversight in some corners of the sport, and the often short-lived careers of athletes in physically punishing professions. Unlike the carefully curated stardom of past decades, Slice's fame was raw, immediate, and democratized, built from the ground up through YouTube and word of mouth, without the gatekeeping of traditional sports promoters. The immediate aftermath of his death was met with shock across the combat sports world and beyond. Though not a title holder in major MMA organizations, Kimbo Slice represented something deeper: the everyman who broke into elite fighting through sheer toughness and charisma. His passing prompted a wave of reflection about the nature of internet-born fame and the cost of living up to an image created by millions of viewers. In death, Kimbo Slice became more than a fighter. He became a symbol of an era that blurred the lines between entertainment, violence, and authenticity. His story, from homeless security guard to household name, resonated with a generation raised on digital grit rather than polished celebrity. He has been immortalized through documentaries, tributes from fighters and fans, and a digital legacy that continues to circulate widely online. His death reminds us that even the strongest bodies are vulnerable, and that fame, no matter how unconventional, does not shield one from mortality. Humanity has always grappled with how to remember its warriors, whether through statues or stories. In the 21st century, Kimbo Slice is remembered not in marble, but in pixels, an icon of strength, struggle, and the raw edge of the internet age. Jack Haley, best known for his role as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, died of a heart attack on June 6, 1979, at the age of 81. His death was natural and quiet, contrasting sharply with the vivid, fantastical world he helped bring to life on screen. Haley's passing marked the loss of one of the last living connections to a golden age of Hollywood, an era shaped by idealism, emerging cinematic magic, and the hardships of the Great Depression. Born into a working-class Irish-American family, Haley rose through vaudeville and radio before landing in Hollywood musicals. Yet it was his portrayal of the Tin Man, a character in search of a heart, that etched his image permanently into American cultural memory. Ironically, Haley had not been the original choice for the role. He replaced Buddy Ebsen, who suffered a near-fatal allergic reaction to the original aluminum makeup. Haley himself experienced an eye infection from the revised costume, a reminder of the physical risks performers often faced in the pursuit of movie magic. By the time of Haley's death, America was shifting culturally. The 1970s had seen the decline of the studio system, the rise of gritty realism in cinema, and a generation growing up with reruns of The Wizard of Oz on television. His death prompted a wave of nostalgic reflection. Though he had faded from the limelight in his later years, his role in Oz ensured that he would never be forgotten. For many, the Tin Man's quest for a heart served as a powerful allegory, especially during the war-torn and emotionally fractured 20th century, symbolizing the human longing for empathy and emotional wholeness. Haley's passing did not shift the course of history in a geopolitical sense, but it did amplify the legend of The Wizard of Oz, a film that remains one of the most beloved and studied in cinematic history. In remembering Haley, we see how actors can transcend their time through a single iconic performance. His death reminds us that cultural immortality often comes not through power or controversy, but through timeless storytelling. Jack Haley is immortalized not by statues or political speeches, but by film reels, children's imaginations, and the enduring message that sometimes what we seek most is already within us. Esther Williams, the dazzling mermaid of Hollywood's golden age, died of natural causes at the age of 91 on June 6, 2013. Her passing marked the end of an era defined by glamorous spectacle, post-war optimism, and the unique genre of the aqua musical, a category she largely created and dominated. Though her death was peaceful and private, it invited reflection on a time when synchronized swimming was cinema's shimmering metaphor for control, beauty, and female strength. Williams' career blossomed during the 1940s and 1950s, an era when America, recovering from World War II, sought joy, order, and wholesome entertainment. Her films, often light in plot but rich in lavish underwater choreography, symbolized the grace under pressure that was expected of women both in society and on screen. In movies like Bathing Beauty, 1944, and $1 Million Mermaid, 1952, Williams became more than a star. She was an icon of elegance and athleticism, combining the glamour of a movie goddess with the resilience of a champion swimmer. Her death did not spark political upheaval or cultural shockwaves, but it rekindled admiration for a performer who brought discipline and artistry to a genre long dismissed as fluff. Williams' legend was quietly amplified in the years following her passing, as film scholars and fans alike reassessed her impact on cinema and gender roles. She paved the way for female athletes in entertainment and set a precedent for strong, self-possessed heroines. The world she left behind had long moved past her style of filmmaking, yet her influence endures in surprising ways. From Olympic synchronized swimming routines inspired by her aquatic ballets to retrospectives celebrating her pioneering role as a sportswoman in Hollywood. Williams herself had once remarked that she was the only woman in Hollywood who had the guts to get into water, a line that now reads as both a literal and metaphorical testament to her unique legacy. Her death invites a broader meditation on how we remember figures who shaped the aesthetics and aspirations of their time. Through restored films, museum exhibits, and popular memory, Esther Williams swims eternally in the collective imagination, a figure of beauty, athleticism, and grace, defying gravity and mortality with every ripple she left behind. Andrée Champagne, a celebrated Canadian actress, cultural advocate, and later a member of Parliament, passed away on June 6, 2020, at the age of 80 from natural causes. Her death marked the quiet end of a multifaceted life devoted to the arts and public service, reflecting a Canada increasingly attentive to the cultural fabric of its national identity. Best known for her iconic role as Donalda in the long-running television series Les Belles Histoires des Pays d'en Haut, Champagne captivated French-Canadian audiences during a period when television was becoming a unifying force in national culture. Her on-screen presence provided comfort and continuity through the rapid modernization of Quebec during the 1960s and 1970s, a time marked by the Quiet Revolution, secularization, and shifting societal values. Her characters often embodied the ideal of perseverance and dignity, quietly championing traditional virtues in a changing world. Transitioning from performance to politics, Champagne brought her advocacy for the arts into the Canadian Parliament, where she served as a progressive Conservative MP and later as a senator. Her death from natural causes may not have shocked the public, but it symbolized the fading of a generation that valued cultural stewardship and civic responsibility. In a time increasingly focused on immediacy and digital communication, Champagne's legacy underscores the enduring power of cultural continuity and personal grace. The immediate consequence of her passing was a collective remembrance within Canada's artistic and political communities. Tributes poured in recognizing her dual impact, first as a beloved actress, then as a dedicated public servant who championed funding and recognition for Canadian artists. While her death did not shift the trajectory of history, it did shine a spotlight on the often overlooked influence of cultural figures who bridged the worlds of entertainment and policy. Her legacy is preserved through televised reruns of her most famous roles, archived interviews, and the institutions she helped support. Schools, cultural grants, and political discourse continue to reflect her contributions. Champagne's life and death remind us that immortality often lies not in spectacle, but in the steady nurturing of a people's soul, through art, representation, and quiet leadership. In remembering Andrée Champagne, we see how mortality intersects with meaning. Her story illustrates that while not all lives end in drama or controversy, those rooted in service and expression can still echo through time. Billy Preston, often hailed as the fifth Beatle for his extraordinary collaborations with the iconic band, died on June 6, 2006, at the age of 59. His death was due to natural causes, specifically respiratory failure following a prolonged battle with chronic kidney disease and complications from malignant hypertension. His final years were marked by health struggles, including a kidney transplant in 2002 that ultimately failed, leaving him on dialysis and in a coma for several months before his passing. Preston's death reflected the often overlooked toll of the music industry on its artists. Rising to prominence in the 1960s and 70s, Preston's talent as a keyboardist, composer, and vocalist placed him among the most respected musicians of his time. Yet his personal struggles, including substance abuse, legal battles, and declining health, mirrored a broader pattern within the entertainment world. His life underscored the intense pressures faced by artists navigating fame, racial barriers, and an industry often more interested in profit than well-being. The immediate reaction to his death was a wave of tributes from fellow musicians and fans, celebrating his contributions to music history. Preston had worked with the Beatles on songs like Get Back and Something, and was one of the few artists to receive co-credit on a Beatles single. He also played with the Rolling Stones and had a successful solo career, with hits like Will It Go Round in Circles and Nothing from Nothing. His passing reignited appreciation for his musical genius and highlighted his role as a bridge between gospel, soul, rock, and pop. Though Preston may not have shifted the course of global history, his death amplified his legend within music circles. His legacy lives on in the countless recordings he enriched and in the generations of musicians influenced by his style. His induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021 further cemented his enduring significance. Preston's death invites reflection on how we remember artists who may not have always stood in the spotlight but whose work profoundly shaped culture. In honoring his legacy through posthumous awards, documentaries, and musical retrospectives, we affirm humanity's desire to preserve beauty and expression. Through memory and music, Billy Preston lives on, an enduring echo in the symphony of modern sound. Pat Cooper, the brash, unapologetic comedian known for his fiery stage presence and biting commentary on family and Italian-American culture, died on June 6, 2023, at the age of 93 from natural causes. His passing marked the end of a long and storied career in American comedy, one that spanned decades of transformation in both entertainment and society. Cooper rose to fame during the mid-20th century, a time when comedians navigated ethnic identity, censorship, and the changing values of American audiences. His act, fueled by exaggerated frustrations, mock outrage, and fierce pride in his Italian heritage, reflected the tensions and humor of assimilation in post-war America. His material, often centered around family dysfunction and cultural stereotypes, was as much a defense of tradition as it was a satire of it. By speaking unabashedly about his roots, Cooper carved out a niche during an era that both celebrated and stereotyped ethnic communities. The immediate consequence of Cooper's death was a wave of tributes from the comedy world, acknowledging his fearless voice and his impact on stand-up. Though not as widely known among newer generations, His legacy was revered among fellow performers who admired his commitment to honesty and his refusal to conform to political correctness. In this sense, his passing did not shift the course of history, but it did close a chapter on a comedic style that was raw, personal, and culturally specific. Pat Cooper's death underscored a generational transition in comedy, one where the boundaries of satire, identity, and offense are constantly redefined. His life and work offered a lens into how humor evolves with culture and how comedians reflect and resist the norms of their time. As with many performers, Cooper is immortalized not only through recordings and appearances, but also in the memories of audiences who saw themselves in his fiery rants. He lives on through interviews, old television spots, and retrospectives that chronicle the shifting tides of American comedy. In remembering him, we recognize how humor can serve as both mirror and rebellion, and how the voices that dare to speak loudly, even imperfectly, leave behind echoes that outlast the laughter. Terresa Salana's death on June 6, 2016, from complications related to pneumonia, marked the passing of an actress and advocate whose life and tragic experiences reflected both the vulnerabilities and resilience of her era. Her death was natural, yet the story surrounding her life and near-fatal encounter with violence offers profound insight into society's evolving relationship with crime, celebrity, and victim advocacy during the late 20th century. In 1982, at the height of her rising career, Salana was violently attacked and stabbed by an obsessed fan in a brutal assault that shocked the public. This attack thrust her into the national spotlight, not just as an actress, but as a survivor who bravely confronted issues of stalking and personal security long before such topics were widely recognized. The violence she endured mirrored the challenges of a society grappling with rising urban crime rates, the complexities of celebrity culture, and the emerging awareness of victims' rights. Her response, using her platform to educate and advocate, highlighted the era's shifting values toward empathy and protection for victims, and the importance of mental health and safety awareness. The immediate consequences of her attack and later death extended beyond the entertainment world. Salana became a symbol of survival and empowerment, inspiring legislative changes and public discussion on stalking and personal safety. Her story amplified the cultural dialogue on how victims of violent crime could reclaim agency, a theme that resonated deeply during a time when public figures were increasingly held accountable for personal behavior and security measures. Terresa Salana's passing may not have altered the course of history on a global scale, but it solidified her legacy as a courageous voice who bridged the worlds of art and activism. Her life and death reveal the profound human struggle with vulnerability, mortality, and the quest for dignity amid trauma. We immortalize figures like Salana through film portrayals, documentaries, and advocacy memorials that keep their stories alive, teaching future generations about resilience and social change. Her legacy endures in the broader cultural recognition of victims' rights and the ongoing fight to create safer environments for all, a testament to how personal tragedy can transform into collective empowerment. Peter Schaffer, the renowned British playwright known for masterpieces such as Equus and Amadeus, died of natural causes in 2016 at the age of 90. His passing marked the end of an era for theater that grappled deeply with human psychology, morality, and the complexity of artistic genius. Schaffer's death, though peaceful, reflected the broader cultural values of his time, especially the mid to late 20th century's fascination with the human mind and the moral ambiguities that shape identity and creativity. Schaffer's work emerged during a period when society was increasingly exploring themes of mental health, existential crisis, and the clash between individual passion and societal norms. His death closed the chapter on a voice that challenged audiences to confront discomforting truths about obsession, madness, and genius. The era Schaffer wrote in valued psychological depth and dramatic innovation, and his plays often mirrored the tensions of a post-war world wrestling with new understandings of human nature. The immediate consequences of Schaffer's passing were felt most strongly in the world of theater and literature. His death sparked renewed interest in his plays, prompting revivals and scholarly reassessment. Schaffer's legacy amplified his status as a transformative figure who shaped modern drama with intricate character studies and philosophical undertones. Though his passing did not shift history on a grand political scale, it underscored the lasting impact of art in examining the human condition. His death also invites reflection on how society processes mortality, especially for artists who probe the depths of life's mysteries. Schaffer's life and death reveal humanity's complex relationship with mortality, not merely as an end, but as a moment that immortalizes creative contributions. Through his plays, Schaffer remains alive in public memory, immortalized on stages worldwide and in literature curricula. We commemorate figures like Schaffer through continued performances, adaptations, and critical study, ensuring that their exploration of power, psychology, and morality endures. His death reminds us that while mortality is inevitable, art provides a timeless bridge connecting past and future, allowing memory and influence to transcend death itself. Hadtie, the beloved Australian actress best known for her role as Helen Daniels on the long-running soap opera Neighbours, died of natural causes in 1999 at the age of 68. Her death reflected the quiet dignity and resilience characteristic of many in the entertainment industry who, though often behind the scenes or in steady supporting roles, shaped cultural narratives and connected deeply with everyday audiences. Hattie's passing occurred in an era when television had become a central part of global culture, reflecting societal values around family, community, and personal struggle. The immediate consequence of Hattie's death was a palpable sense of loss among Neighbours viewers and the broader Australian public. Helen Daniels was not merely a character. She was a symbol of stability and compassion in the fictional world of Ramsay Street. Hattie's death mirrored a period of transition in television, where audiences increasingly valued authenticity and nuanced portrayals of everyday life. Her passing amplified her legacy, reminding fans and colleagues alike of the power of steady, heartfelt storytelling during a time when soap operas were vital in shaping social attitudes and offering communal experiences. Hattie's death did not shift the trajectory of history on a grand scale, but it highlighted the importance of the arts in preserving human connection. It underscored the value of performers who, through subtle craft, offer audiences windows into shared experiences of love, loss, and resilience. Her passing reveals how mortality inevitably touches even those who bring joy and comfort to millions, reminding humanity of the fragile intersection between life, art, and memory. Through television reruns, commemorative episodes, and heartfelt tributes, Hadtie is immortalized in the cultural memory of Australia and beyond. Her work continues to be celebrated in retrospectives and fan communities, showing how art can transform individuals into enduring symbols of warmth and kindness. Hattie's life and death reveal that humanity immortalizes its figures not only through grand monuments, but also through the small, consistent acts of storytelling that reflect everyday realities and eternal human truths. In doing so, we honor both their contributions and our shared journey through mortality and memory. Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and pioneering founder of analytical psychology, died of natural causes on June 6, 1961, at the age of 85. His death marked the end of a remarkable life dedicated to exploring the depths of the human psyche, a journey that both reflected and shaped the intellectual and cultural currents of the early to mid-20th century, a time characterized by rapid scientific advances, world conflicts, and a search for meaning beyond materialism. Jung's passing came during a period when Western society was grappling with the aftermath of 2 world wars and the psychological scars they inflicted. His ideas on the collective unconscious, archetypes, and individuation resonated deeply in an era questioning identity, spirituality, and the nature of the self. The natural, peaceful circumstances of his death contrasted with the turbulent themes he had studied, underscoring the inevitable human confrontation with mortality regardless of intellectual stature. The immediate consequences of Jung's death involved a consolidation and expansion of his legacy. While his work was sometimes controversial and diverged from mainstream Freudian psychoanalysis, his death prompted a renewed interest in his theories. His contributions influenced not only psychology, but also art, literature, religion, and philosophy. Jung's ideas helped bridge the gap between science and spirituality, reflecting a 20th century value shift towards integrating the rationale with the mystical. Jung's death amplified his legend by solidifying his place as a visionary thinker whose insights transcended traditional boundaries. It shifted the trajectory of psychology by encouraging later generations to explore human consciousness in more holistic and symbolic ways, influencing therapeutic practices and cultural narratives alike. His life and death reveal humanity's enduring quest to understand the self amid the mysteries of life and death, highlighting how mortality propels deeper reflections on meaning and identity. We immortalize Jung through countless biographies, academic studies, artistic works inspired by his archetypes, and ongoing clinical practices rooted in his methods. His legacy endures in art, literature, and popular culture, demonstrating how we commemorate figures who illuminate the hidden depths of the human experience. In remembering Jung, we confront the delicate balance between life's fleeting nature and the timeless pursuit of self-understanding, powerfully echoing humanity's complex relationship with mortality, memory, and meaning.